Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Catholic Monarchist podcast. We have a good episode for you today. It's a little bit, I would say, controversial because I've been having this internal debate in my head for a while where I just haven't been able to decide whether I want to vote for certain people in this election. And I know I've made a previous video saying how we should still vote because even though maybe the candidate themselves or the candidates themselves do not reflect your values much at all, or they pretend to, but they actually won't follow through with it, it's still a good thing because it shows that we are still serious. We're still here. Uh, we want people to represent us who represent our values and represent what God's law dictates, what God wants, what the church says, and for the people in charge to know that there's still people willing to resist their power grip, then just voting on that basis alone is still worth it. And then after that, I've been thinking for a while. And so you know how the church teaches you should vote and you should find the lesser of two evils if there are two candidates, or if there are more. But just whoever is least evil of the options. And I agree with that. Obviously, that's what the church teaches. I'm not here to argue with that. I agree with it. But what if there really isn't a lesser of two evils? Or what if the technical lesser evil is barely any less evil than the other option? Of course, what I'm talking about is, the obvious debate is the Democrat is always the more evil and the Republican is always the lesser of two evils. But I mean, okay, I wouldn't say always, but the vast majority of the time. And so we've always been told, pretty much that's our option. It's just vote Republican. And I've just been getting so sick and tired of these guys. I mean, just this whole party is a disaster. And I've kind of come to the conclusion, and maybe I'm wrong. I would love to hear, your opinions. Maybe there's something I'm missing. But right now, just based on my own internal dialogue, I just don't see pretty much any difference. Maybe just a slight one at this point, because the Republican Party at this point, I mean, what do they represent that's Catholic or even Christian for that matter? What does it represent for, let's say, myself, who is of European descent, and my culture? When was the last time they've ever said anything or done anything to reflect support for that? I mean, look at the RNC convention the last couple of days. It's I just there's nothing there for me. There's nothing there for us. God is an afterthought. The word, the name Jesus Christ is never mentioned. But then they invite all these other people. They invite, a porn star, to come and speak, which I understand if this person changed their ways and, and they said, this stuff I was doing before is just no good, and I'm done with that. I've completely converted away from that. But all she does is say, "Hey, I'm with the Republicans now. Donald Trump is cool. Republicans are cool. I'm sick of the Democrats," and everybody's just cheering her on. You know, just that's it. She's still running an OnlyFans page, from what I've heard. So why is that a spokesperson for a supposed conservative movement? Then you've got someone coming up there singing a Hindu prayer, which is just complete blasphemy. She's up there calling her elephant god the one true God. I mean, the complete slap in the face to Catholics, Christians, and just people like us. That they just don't represent us at all anymore. We're just taken for granted at this point. And quite frankly, I'm done with that. I'm done with Republicans who do that. So and then and I've talked about this many times already in previous videos, their views on abortion and the gay stuff and other things. They even have an immoral view on economy. When you think about it, they're just all completely free market capitalists. Just everybody just does what they want. And then look at what we've got now with all the corporations completely running our lives. So on that, so that's point one, is that there's such a slight lesser of two evils. You don't even notice much of it anymore. And then point number two is that, I'm trying not to be careless with my vote, and I'm not a fan of democracy, but this is what we got right now. So I got to work with what I got. And yeah, so I have a vote. I don't want to throw it away, and just say, oh, just vote for whoever's got the R next to his name and be done with it. I mean, that's what got us into what we are now, a Republican Party that's center left at this point. And so I'm trying to figure out, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but to me, almost the more prudent decision on my end is that I'm going to withhold my vote on a lot of the high profile races. So pretty much I'm just sticking with local. I know some guys around here who are running, and rerunning for positions, whatever. And I know they're great people. They're not bought off by any lobbyists. They have great values. And so they 100% have my vote. But I mean, I just can't bring myself right now to vote for these controlled people anymore that just don't care about me, don't care about us, don't care about God, first and foremost. And and the point here is that if I did this, if I withheld my vote and more people did that, maybe that sends a message to them saying, look, we're done just blindly voting for you if you're not going to offer us anything. And maybe that's leverage. Am I wrong? I don't know. This could be a completely imprudent decision. I'm like 95% certain that that's what I'm going to do. Now, as for the presidential race, I pretty much feel the same way about Trump. But with him, and I don't know what I'm going to do yet in his case, but he is an individual person. It's much easier to see an individual person and believe that maybe something will change with them as opposed to an entire system. And so, in addition to that, the assassination attempt, which, you know, I'm very glad that was unsuccessful. You know, that would have been pretty awful. That happened. I still care about the guy, you know, a lot, just the individual person. And maybe this tragic, you know, event that happened, maybe that'll change his heart in some way. You know, I don't know. Might not be immediate or drastic, but that would be the hope I would hold on to, that maybe I'll just vote for him here. Withhold on everybody else, all the other high profile Republicans, but vote for him here and hope that that he had a revelation at that moment, and he will do everything he can within that system to do what do what God would want. And so that's where I'm at right now with that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I've just gotten very frustrated with these people. And I'm starting to believe, I think we just need a different course of action. We need to tell them, we're done with you unless you drastically change yourselves. Because what this Republican platform runs on now is just not going to do it. It just isn't, and it just gets worse. I mean, look at 10 years ago, and then look at 20 years ago, and it's a mess right now. What about 10 years from now? You know, we could just keep putting our heads down and voting for them because that's the right thing to do, and it's the lesser of two evils, and that's what we have to do, and then that's it. Or we could really make a statement. And so it's a tough call to make, and I'm not trying to tell everybody what you know they should do. I'm just reflecting my thoughts, and just that's all I got about that. You know, so you know, God's in control, so all we could do is just try to make a decision based on what our conscience, you know, believes, you know, like just pray on it and just make the decision we believe would be the best for just establishing a Catholic culture that believes in God and follows his laws and wants to make it to heaven and be with him. And so that's what we want, right? So that's all I've got. I hope this wasn't too controversial. This is just my thoughts, and I haven't completely decided, but it's probably likely that's what I'm going to do. So, yeah, you all have a great evening, and I'll see you next time. So, God bless.